What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Guys, today we have to do an update slash rebuttal video to yesterday's video because I put this up and, when I talk about cards specifically on the channel, I know videos like this aren't going to do as well and they're going to ruffle feathers because the reality is in One Piece, there are tons of people gatekeeping the hobby still that are very emotionally based. And if you look at my comments, you'll see that. And again, I'm not saying I'm not emotional ever because I read these comments and I try not to let them get to me, but sometimes they do, like today, like they really did frustrate me seeing all this. So that's why I woke up, chose violence, and why we're going to be doing this video because there's tons of stuff that I read that was just super cringe, inaccurate, ignored basically everything I actually brought up in the video. And I promise there will be value here because I want to go deeper into the discussion on the SP cards and kind of just how TCGs evolve over time and what Bandai should be doing if they want to get a larger base of collectors in their hobby. Because what Pokemon, is the leader by far. Pokemon is just absolutely crushing it. There's no denying that. And One Piece, if they want to get a larger share of the market, you're only going to be able to do that so much by growing the TCG. And then also, I had a disagreement with someone in the comments. The reality is, Bandai and Pokemon, these companies are making their money basically from the collectors. People playing the TCG, they're not making money off of those people. And you can say that people are buying, they're maxing out their decks with max rarity, right? Like they're playing with the manga cards and everything like that. Like they're spending thousands. First of all, most people playing the TCG are not spending thousands of dollars on a deck. Like most people are in Reddit forums complaining because Gum Gum Pistol or Finger Pistol, whatever the fuck it was called, is like a $12 rare. And I agree, like that's ridiculous. That should be like a $1 card, a 30-cent card, whatever. Like the cards that you need to play should be cheap. I completely agree with that, but most people are not spending thousands of dollars on a deck, okay? They're trying to make it as cheap as possible. But even if everyone was maxing out their decks, okay? Bandai's not making any money off of these TCG players buying the cards. They might get indirect revenue from the popularity of the game and people actually going and opening the packs, but they make their money by people buying booster boxes, by buying sleep packs and opening those products, the ones that they sell to distribution. So because Bandai is a company and companies like to make money, Bandai should be doing everything within their power to be putting out better, more desirable cards that are going to reach a wider market, which means they're going to make more money. And that's kind of what this whole video is going to be about. But we do have to start by just addressing some of these comments because some of them are very cringe. And I can tell when someone's a new viewer on the channel. Like I can see if they've ever left a comment. And most of these people also have their subscriptions on, so I can tell that they're not actually subscribed to me. It's new people, it's cringe, but I do want to address some of these. So the first one, Docs Diamond, this is a new viewer to the channel who's never actually watched any of my content, never listened to anything I've ever said. They said, opinions presented as facts. You guys know, in that video, I said that this was just my opinion. I don't like the SPs. I think they're lazy, most of them. They're poorly done, and I think that Bandai can do a lot better. If you perceive that as me trying to show that as fact, sorry you feel that way, but again, it was just my opinion. Obvious and painful lack of knowledge about the character show. Painful is a very subjective word that you could have used here, but it is obvious that I have a lack of knowledge. I mean, I even openly say I'm only on episode like 400, so if I get things wrong, definitely feel free to leave a comment respectfully educating me. Like, that's awesome. But again, like using the word painful is just like your subjective sense, and it kind of shows this person was very emotionally charged, and now I'm going to be responding emotionally. Like, nobody wins in this, but like I have to roast these people just because it's so fucking stupid. And then openly admitting you don't like the card artwork. Yeah, I don't like the card artwork. And I think most people actually don't like the card artwork, and that the people defending what I perceive as bad cards are probably in the minority, and we're going to get to that later in this video. What a miserable person. Again, you've watched one of my videos. You're already making assumptions about me. Super cringe. And by all means, please keep leaving snide remarks on people's comments. Yeah, I mean, like if someone is disrespecting me, right, and this is their first video they've watched to me, like don't be surprised that I treat them the same way they treat me. Like that's just rational and obvious, and that's kind of how respect, it's a two-way street. Like if you come in respectful, you're probably going to get respect out of me. And again, like I'm open to criticism. Like you guys wanted more content about cards, so I heard that. I put a video out about cards, and this is what happens, and this is why I stick to talking about booster boxes even though people think it's repetitive, just because for me, I hate making videos like this because people just can't have rational discussions about the cards in One Piece. They're just absolute fanatics and gatekeepers. Next comment though, calling Doflamingo not one of the most popular characters is crazy. He's one of, if not the most popular villains in all of One Piece. So you could be the most popular villain in One Piece. That doesn't mean you're one of the most popular characters. So what I mean by this, right? Luffy, I think universally is agreed upon as the most popular character in One Piece. That's obvious. It's kind of like Pikachu in Pokemon, even though some people would probably argue Pikachu isn't the most popular Pokemon at this point. But either way, Luffy's the most popular. And then below that, you're going to have Nami is probably one of the most popular characters. Zoro's probably one of the most popular. If Sanji's one of the most popular. If Chopper's one of the most popular. If Frankie's one of the most popular. If who else? Nico Robin's one of the most popular. If Kaido's one of the most popular. If Roger's one of the most popular. If Rayleigh's one of the most popular. If Trafalgar Law's one of the most popular. If Shanks is one of the most popular. If Doflamingo's one of the most popular. Well, they can't all be one of the most popular. That just defeats the use of the word pop or most in this, right? Like you can't all be one of the most popular. That's not how things work. And there are people saying that I just don't have knowledge about One Piece and I'm delusional in my take by that. But guys, I can use Google, right? I put in One Piece most popular characters ranked, go to any list from people that are educated in quotation marks that this is just, not just my opinion, but the opinion of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. Doflamingo is not showing up in the top 10 on any list ever, right? So it's kind of like saying the Buffalo Sabres is one of the best teams in the NHL because they're ranked 20th out of 30 teams or 31 teams in the NHL. No, the best teams or one of the best teams in the NHL is going to be like a top 3 to 5 team, if that makes sense. If you're ranked 20th out of 30 teams or out of 50 teams, you're not one of the best, okay? That's not how words work. And the reason this is so popular and why I get frustrated by this is because in One Piece, there's going to be a very limited list of characters that are worth investing in, and that's going to be Luffy. And you can make assumptions on like the end game of One Piece and who's going to play the largest role, but I imagine Luffy's going to be up there. Your Nami cards, sure, Zoro, Shanks, maybe a couple other characters like Roger. I know Roger's not going to be playing a role in the end of One Piece, but in terms of popularity, like he's probably up there. The Gold Roger's a massive card in '09, so outside of these few characters, like there really aren't that many that I think are worth investing tons of money in. And that's kind of the point of saying that they're not one of the most popular, right? Like instead of arguing semantics, when we look at it as an investment vehicle, it's not going to be one of the best investments. That's just the reality. It's the same thing in like Pokemon by investing a ton of money in Meryl or like, I mean, Tyranitar's kind of up there, but again, like it's not one of the most popular. It's a popular Pokemon, not one of the most popular. So it goes the same way, but we want to focus our money. If you are going to invest in singles and slabs, put it into the most popular characters, the actual most popular characters, not like ranked 20th or 30th that you think is the most popular because you like them. And again, that's not just my opinion. If you go to Google and you look at any list, he's really not up there. So moving on, there's one more thing I wanted to touch on. And lots of you guys talked about texture, and that's, commendable. Like if you like the texture, again, I wasn't trying to insult anyone's taste in artistic preferences in this video. I don't like the cards. If you like them, that's awesome. Like that's really all that matters at the end of the day. But we are going to talk about that in a second. But again, like I wasn't trying to insult anyone. That's something I do want to get across. And most of you guys that aren't smooth-brained understood that. But there's one more thing here, which came from another fairly large creator. This person here, whatever, that comment's fine. But it was down here, Official Crud League. You say we don't know the hit rates for SP in each set, but they are mapped per case for each set. You should be able to find that info with a quick 10-second Google search. Do better, bro. A lot of incorrect info, misleading statements in the video. Recommend more research for future videos. So nothing I said was incorrect in this video. And if you actually listen to what I'm saying instead of just what you want to hear, if you go to about the 6-minute, 55-second mark in the video, you'll hear me say that we do generally know how often you're going to get a manga in terms of out of a case. Same thing with an SP. Like we kind of know it's probably around 1 in every 2 cases you get a manga. And then for an SP, it's like 1 in a case, whatever. But ignoring the fact that that data is horrifically small in terms of the amount of cases actually used to come up with those numbers. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Because if you actually do a quick 10-second Google search and you put in One Piece pull rate data, this is what comes up, right? So it's going to bring you to a Reddit thread, but then below that with the AI overview, it's linking to a YouTube video, and you can open these. But this One Piece YouTube video, if you go in here, shout out to Card Addicts Anonymous, this is their video. They're pulling from a Facebook listing from someone named Luigi Amato, and they opened 4 cases. So if you do the math on 4 cases, there's 24 packs in a booster box, 12 booster boxes in a case times 4 cases. That's 1,152 packs, okay? That is terribly small. Like, that is an awful amount of data. I mean, TCG Player for their Pokemon sets normally puts out data based on like 3,000, 5,000, 7,000 packs sometimes. And that's a small sample. Like, that's not great either, especially when the pull rates on some of these cards are like 1 in 1,000 packs or 1 in 1,500 packs. Like, the variance you could see based on only 7,000 packs or 5,000. And in One Piece's case, for most of these sets, based on like 1,000 packs or 2,000 packs, it's not great data. But going even a step further, which again, if you listen to what I was saying in the video, we don't know based on every single set what the pull rates are for every individual card. For example, is the Nami SP the same pull rate as the Yamato SP? Is that the same pull rate as the Uta SP, as the Enel SP, right? We do not know this. There is no data suggesting that these are different or the same. Most people just assume that they're the same, and this really isn't a place that we should be assuming anything. Same goes for the manga cards. Is pulling the Luffy the same as pulling the Trafalgar Law manga, as pulling the Captain manga? We really don't know. There's no data suggesting this. And again, even if there was data, it's a very small sample size. We need to have larger numbers. So that's all I actually said in the video, if you really listen to what I was saying. And same thing goes for alt arts too. Like, is pulling the alt art Luffy, the Ichiroda stamped one, the same as like pulling the Monkey D. Luffy alt leader card, right? Or any of these other alt arts, the Bello Betty, like, we really do not know. So that's all I was saying. Again, like, if you want to hear people lie and tell you that all mangas are 1 in 2 cases, or that SPs are, 1 in 3 cases because there's 6 and then there's 1 of 2, whatever the math comes out to, like, you can go watch those videos, right? But I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, because the reality is we do not know. We don't have the data. So anybody telling you that we have the data is just lying to you. They're misinformed, and they're probably trying to sell you on something. So I just thought that was cringe, because like, you're saying that I'm bringing up incorrect information when again, like, you didn't even listen to what I was saying, and that we don't have correct information. And again, like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we do have that information. So if you have pull rate data on the Nami SP versus the Yamato SP versus the Uda SP in OPL5, please feel free to link it. I'd love to look at that information. I think most people investing in One Piece would love to know the pull rates for each SP and manga card. That would be great, in every single set too. So if you have that, awesome. But to get back to the main topic of this video, we're gonna get to a little bit of data. And I still don't think that these SPs are that great of cards. And I think that in the future, if Bandai wants to reach a larger market, they're going to have to change the style of these cards. And I'm gonna get to what I mean by that and try and give you guys my best opinion, and based around what I'm seeing the top TCG do, which is Pokemon. And if we go to this list, Pokemon is the highest grossing media franchise of all time. I think this is older data, maybe from like last year, 2 years ago, $92 billion. I think they're over 100 billion at this point. But even on this list, if you scroll all the way down to like the 15th rank or 20th, wherever it is down here, I can't even find it. One Piece is on here, I believe, right here, about $20 billion. So in terms of size, Pokemon's 4 to 5 times larger than One Piece. And again, that's not just from trading cards, that's from everything in the media franchise. But point being, Pokemon's a lot larger. And if you go to look at specific TCG player data, or just TCG data in general, not TCG player data, this is from PokeBeach. This is from 2023. The numbers from all the top companies and all the top TCGs. You can see Pokemon, they did about $860 million USD in earnings in 2023. And you can see down here, One Piece is at about 170 million, and that's respectable. Like, that's a huge number, 4th highest. I think they've actually overtaken Duel Masters at this point in the most recent year. I couldn't find the 2024 updated numbers anywhere, and they should be out somewhere. So if you guys know where they are, please feel free to link me, because I actually want to look at that. But even in 2023, you could see One Piece was a top 4 game, but it's nowhere near Pokemon, right? Like, it's a 4th, maybe a 5th of what Pokemon is. And another thing to point out in this video, or on this list, is that Bandai had a lot of games. So you can see One Piece here. They also had Battle Spirits. they have Union Arena, and they also have down here somewhere Digimon, right? And you can see over here whether these were higher or lower than 2022. One Piece was a lot higher. Battle Spirits actually shrunk in terms of sales. It was smaller than it was in 2022. Union Arena, huge spike, was up massive for Bandai. And then Digimon was actually down a decent amount, only 85% of 2022 numbers. So Bandai's all over the place. They're juggling a lot of games. They're doing, I believe, Gundam now too, right? And maybe even another game. I don't even know. So they're doing a lot. Like their main focus probably should be One Piece. And I don't know how much of their focus is getting taken away from these other games. And that's why I'm very critical of them for reusing artworks, and why I think they are doing it is just because they don't have the time to be constantly updating their catalog of character artworks and action scenes for everything. Whereas with Pokemon, I mean, they're a much larger company. They can hire all the artists, but it's also their only game. Their only sole focus is to come out with the best, most popular cards that the most people in the TCG world, right, not just in Pokemon, but collectors in general, are going to want. And I kind of drew, this is very poorly done, but these are two illustrations, right? And you can see they're big red circles, all TCG collectors in this massive red circle. And then there's a smaller black one in here, OP TCG collectors, which makes up a subgroup of all TCG collectors. And what Pokemon's trying to do with their artworks, right, is they're trying to capture as much of this massive red circle as possible. And One Piece should be doing the same thing. Like if Bandai wants to grow, they really want to get more collectors into their hobby. And I had a disagreement with someone. I kind of forgot to mention this in the comments. Somebody was saying, I can't remember where it was, that they completely disagree with me, saying that collectors are the ones spending the most money in the hobby, and that's where Bandai should focus their efforts. They said that some people playing the TCG buy maxed out decks, like they're buying the most expensive manga cards to play with. And even if that's true, which it's not, like the people Pokemon and Bandai are making money on are the people buying booster boxes to rip, people buying sleeve boosters, 3-pack blisters, ETBs, the tins in One Piece, the double packs, whatever. Like people buying the sealed product. That's where Bandai and Pokemon make their money. They don't make money off people buying the single cards. Like if someone buys an $800-900 card on eBay, Bandai sees $0 from that transaction, right? So once the cards are out there, Bandai doesn't care, right? They're not making more money off of that. And they're a company, they're trying to increase their bottom line, trying to make as much money as possible, as they should. And in order to do that, they need to be selling more booster boxes, more sleeve boosters, more double packs, whatever it is, right? But in terms just overall packs, and that's going to come down to people wanting to open the packs to collect the cards. So to do that, they should be focusing on the best artworks. Now, we are going to show you guys the evolution in Pokemon over the past few generations, and this is going to be basically like 10 to 12 years, maybe even a little bit longer. So a long time ago, like if you go all the way back to WotC era, you had the half arts, right? Like the half card holographics, the Charizard, the Blastoise from base set, fossil, whatever in Pokemon. And those were great cards, but Pokemon very quickly evolved because they realized people didn't just want to see half a card in terms of the artwork. They wanted the full card to be artwork. So Pokemon started putting out full arts like this, and this is from Legendary Treasures. This is black and white era, so this is going back like 12 years or more than that, probably like 15 years almost at this point. This is the Mew full art, whatever. After this, we got like Blastoise. This is an XY card, so this is the generation after black and white. You can see still a fairly regular full art card. It's kind of meh. The characters in there, I know some people would say, well, it's kind of a watery thing. Like you can see the waves or whatever in the background, it's blue. And that's kind of what some people are bringing up with the One Piece cards too. They're going, there's clearly intricacies you're missing, Grayson, in the background of some of these cards. You get deeper in the One Piece and the anime, whatever, you're going to appreciate these more. And I agree with that, right? Like there's probably things I'm missing in the backgrounds of some of these. For example, like this Nami card, I believe these are like clouds and stuff, right? And her whole thing is she's got like the rod and she can create weather or whatever. So I get it. Like there's intricacies to them, but it's still a very simple card. And when we go back to this photo, because this is important, most people do not give a shit about the intricacies, right? They just want to see a cool card that looks awesome, okay? You don't have to go super deep. And this is kind of where the people gatekeeping One Piece are just so cringe, because they think that like you have to be the smartest person and know all the lore to have any type of opinion on what Bandai does with their cards. Guys, if people that only pay attention to One Piece knew what Pokemon collectors knew about Pokemon, they would actually have heart attacks, right? Because most people collecting Pokemon cards don't know anything about Pokemon. They haven't watched the anime. Maybe they were really into it as a kid, but after that, like they just fell off. They're coming back now because it's mainstream, right? And that's where you want to get to. You want to be mainstream. You want to have cool cards that people really don't give a shit about the intricacies and maybe any type of lore that's hidden in it. They just want to see something that's cool, right? Like that's what art comes down to. We're visual creatures as humans, so if the card looks cool, people are going to want it, right? And Pokemon transitioned from half arts to these full art cards, which again, were still very boring. Like maybe at the time, people thought these were cool because it was something new, but Pokemon realized they quickly had to move to new things because these just were not cutting it. So fast forward to the Sun and Moon era. This is going back to like 2017, 2018, 2019 at this point. I think this is from Unified Mind, so this is probably a 2019 release, maybe late 2018. You can see here, you have Sableye, you have Tyranitar. The artwork is definitely more complex than what we were getting in the XY era. It was more complex than what we got in like the WotC and Vintage era. So they're slowly moving towards more complexity, more colorful cards that people actually want. And then after this, right, this is where things get massive. And this is kind of the point I'm trying to make. Pokemon in the Sun and Moon era put out some bangers, and these cards were awesome, but they stepped it up even further in the Sword and Shield era with cards like this. This is the Moonbryon. If you guys don't follow Pokemon, the Umbreon VMAX, but there's a moon in the background. This is probably the most iconic card in Pokemon at this point. It's probably even more iconic than base set Charizard. As ridiculous as that sounds, within only like 4 years, because Evolving Skies came out August 2021. Within like 4 years, pretty much anyone in the Pokemon hobby knows about this card. If they've seen it before, they would know that it's the Moonbryon. So Pokemon really went above and beyond, right? Like it's not a crazy complex photo. There's no crazy lore behind it, but it's an amazing artwork. You have Umbreon in the VMAX form on the top of like a tower, roof, whatever, and they're reaching for the moon because Umbreon's I believe you use the Moonstone, right, to evolve Eevee into Umbreon in the games. And this has become a very expensive card. You can see here, raw, $1,371. In a PSA 10, it's like, what, 3,000, 4,000? I don't even know what it is in a PSA 10, so I'm not going to pretend like I know anymore, but I think it's like above $3,000 at this point. I know we've seen BGS Black Label sales like over $10,000, so it can be very, very expensive. Same thing, I didn't bring up the card, but like the Latias in a BGS 10 is like Black Label's like $40,000 was the most recent sale. So some of these cards are very, very expensive and desirable now. And they didn't just stop there, right? In the SV era, the most recent era, they brought out illustration rares and special illustration rares. And this is the Bubble Mew. I mean, Mew's a very popular Pokemon. You guys might think this is a simple artwork, and that's great because this is a very unique card. We've never seen anything like this. If we go back to like the XY or Black and White era, this is the type of Mew that we had, right? Mew was always pink, always had its like tail out and it was flying and stuff like that. This is something we've never seen before. It was a very unique card, and it is one of the most popular of the new era. And it's coined the Bubble Mew, right? Because it's Mew inside a bubble. So these cards, you can see, like Pokemon evolved over time, and they've been constantly pushing the envelope in their artworks. And you can see Blastoise even back then, like it was a pretty boring artwork. Now, this is like one of the most recent Blastoise we've had, and this is a special illustration rare from 151. It's not a super crazy artwork, this one, but you can see what Pokemon did is they went deeper and they kind of did these connected artworks with the generations. They did the same thing with the Charizard. So for example, the Charizard and then the Charmeleon and then the Charmander, they're kind of like layered above each other, like Charmander's looking up at Charmeleon, who's looking down, and then Charizard's flying above them. So it's like they're going layers deeper every single time. And this is by design. Like Pokemon, the top TCG in the world, and I know this is a One Piece channel, but you really do have to look at what Pokemon's doing because this isn't just my opinion when I say that this card, it's not great. Like it's kind of just a meh SP. Like most people actually think that way. And again, looking back to this, right? There's another chart over here, all music fans and then Shinedown fans. Now, I like Shinedown. Shinedown is one of my favorite bands. I love Linkin Park as well. I like some obscure like Mandarin singers. And I know that my taste in music is not for everyone, right? Like the most popular singers right now or musicians out there, you have Taylor Swift, You have The Weeknd, Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga. I don't listen to any of those people. I think a lot of modern music is just straight trash, but I'm smart enough to know that I'm part of this tiny minority out of all these people in the market that like Shinedown and like Linkin Park and think that that's the best type of music. It's the same thing with the SPs and 1Ps. The bias of a lot of people, right? Because a lot of people in this hobby just don't look at the wider market and what's actually going on. You might all like these cards, and that's great. It's kind of like going into, I don't know, like r/liberal, right? Or like a very liberal subreddit group and then saying that socialism is garbage and it's not actually a functioning economic model. Like, of course, a lot of people in that subreddit are going to call you an idiot and think that you're stupid because the majority of people believe that not to be the case. But if you get outside that bubble and you look at everyone in the world, most people don't actually think that socialism is a good thing. So to sum up this video, because I know it's going to be very long, if you guys are going to leave nasty comments, just don't even bother watching the videos at this point. Like, again, I mess up a ton, guys. Like, especially when it comes to knowledge on One Piece and some of the characters. Like, I mess up tons of stuff. I don't even get names right half the time. So if I do something wrong, definitely feel free to correct me in the comments. Do it respectfully. Don't call me a miserable person and say that I'm an idiot because, you know, it does get to me at times, right? And I just don't want to read this all the time. That's kind of why I stick to talking about sealed product, because it actually reaches what I deem a better audience for me. But please just do things respectfully, right? I leave the comments up though for the most part. I try not to block people because I don't want to be that guy, but just do things with respect, right? Like, if you treat me disrespectfully, I'm probably going to do the same to you just because I'm human and I'm petty as fuck. So that's just what you're going to have to deal with. But the larger, more important part of this video is that the best, highest grossing franchise in the world, Pokemon, has changed over time. Their art styles have constantly improved. They're constantly trying to push the envelope and create better cards. And One Piece, if they want to make more money, they want to, reach a larger market share, no matter what you think, because you might like the cards and that's great, but just because you like cards doesn't mean the majority of people like the same cards as you. If they want to make more money, they're going to have to evolve and do better with their artworks. And by the way, that's not to say that any of these SPs won't be good investments long term. Because these are from some of the very early sets in One Piece. So if One Piece ever pops off, just because there's going to be very low pops on some of these, they might be very, very expensive cards. It's kind of the same thing with like base set Charizard, right? If you have that in a PSA 10, it's $500,000, $600,000. Like, it's very rare to have that solid of a copy of that card, even though based on today's standards, it's probably not that great of an artwork that most people would be interested in. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe wherever you are in the world. I'll catch you in the next one.